In the rugged heartlands of Afghanistan, 3 kilometers from the city of Samangan, lies a monolithic riddle. Hewn from the living rock, a colossal dome-shaped hemisphere rises from a deep, circular trench, an architectural form that seems more akin to a subterranean bunker than a place of worship. This is Takht-e Rostam, the throne of Rostam. The official account identifies it as a Buddhist stupa, a monastery carved in the 3rd or 4th century of our era, when the teachings of the Buddha permeated these ancient trade routes. Its design is a profound anomaly, a negative sculpture, created not by building up, but by carving down. The structure recalls the rock-hewn churches of Ethiopia, yet it harbors a deeper secret. One can descend into the trench and walk its perimeter, but the stupa itself remains impenetrable. There is no entrance. It is a sealed object, either solid to its core or accessible only by some long-forgotten subterranean passage. The sheer scale of the undertaking is staggering. The small superstructure atop the dome, known as a harmika, is not a separate piece placed on top. It is part of the same single piece of stone. This means the ancient builders had to meticulously remove the entire mountain of rock that once existed above the finished monument. It is a testament to an almost unimaginable feat of engineering and vision. But was it Buddhist? Legend holds that stupas were built to house sacred relics of the Buddha himself. Yet this structure diverges sharply from traditional designs, suggesting its purpose, and perhaps its creators, were altogether different. Its very name whispers of a pre-Buddhist Persian past, invoking the legendary hero Rostam, who was said to have built his throne here in half a day. This folktale, however, stands in stark contrast to the evidence etched into the stone. A crude, asymmetrical doorway has been punched into the trench wall, a clear violation of the original, pristine geometry. It is the work of later hands, a clumsy attempt to find a way inside the sealed monument, perhaps in search of treasure. Elsewhere, the scars of other vandals are visible, failed attempts to chisel through the impossibly dense rock. Nearby, another clue awaits, a platform of massive stone blocks, the last remnant of a much larger complex. The blocks bear the telltale grooves of metal clamps, a sophisticated construction technique seen in megalithic sites across the ancient world, from Persia to Egypt. This platform is believed by some to be the tomb of the Achaemenid king Cambyses II, who reigned from 530 to 522 BCE, nearly 1,000 years before the arrival of Buddhism. The stupa stands silent, a monument whose original purpose has been lost, overwritten by the faiths and legends of successive empires. It remains a sealed mystery, a structure that asks more questions than it answers, its unyielding stone preserving the echo of a civilization whose name we may never know. In the heart of Central Asia, where for centuries, the landscape was dominated by 2 colossal figures, sentinels of a forgotten age. Carved directly into the sandstone cliffs stood the Buddhas of Bamyan, one rising to a height of 38 meters, its larger companion towering at a staggering 55. They were the largest standing Buddha carvings in the world, monolithic testaments to faith and artistry. But in March of 2001, the world watched in horror as they were condemned as idols and blasted into dust, an act of cultural annihilation that left gaping wounds in the cliffside, ghosts of a grandeur that can never be reclaimed. The official timeline places their creation in the 6th century of our era, a product of the flourishing Gandharan school of art. Yet, deeper analysis whispers a different story. Carbon dating of the organic materials found within the stucco suggests a far earlier origin, pointing to a period between 50 and 70 years before the Common Era. This is not a minor discrepancy. It is a chasm of over 1,000 years, a void in our understanding that challenges the very bedrock of the historical narrative. These figures, though their purpose was clear, were born from a mystery. While the Buddhas of Bamyan now exist only in memory, other rock-hewn wonders across the globe offer a silence that is even more profound. Journey east to the island of Bali, Indonesia, a land famed for its ornate and vibrant Hindu temples. Yet, hidden within a lush river valley lies a site that predates this familiar architecture, a place of stark and enigmatic power, Gunung Kawi. To enter this sacred complex is to descend into the earth itself. One does not climb to this temple. One walks down a long, deep trench carved from solid volcanic tuff. The walls of this sunken passage rise on either side, smooth and precise. The immediate question is inescapable. Why excavate such a monumental trench when simple stairs over the surface would have sufficed? The effort was immense, suggesting that the very act of descending, of entering the rock, was integral to the site's purpose. This technique hints at a technology, a methodology that made the removal of stone a trivial matter, a feat accomplished not with brute force, but with an unknown and elegant efficiency. At the bottom of the descent, the valley opens into a breathtaking courtyard carved from the living rock. On one side, a cliff face has been sculpted into 4 colossal reliefs, resembling ancient shrine towers, known locally as Kandi. Across the river, another 5 stand in silent vigil. These are not structures built upon the rock, they are the rock itself, shaped and hollowed with an impossible precision. Each stands over 7 meters tall, monolithic facades that seem to guard secrets rather than tombs. And here, the mystery deepens. Across the entire complex, there is not a single carving, not one inscription that definitively links it to Hindu or Buddhist deities. No gods, no identifiable symbols. It is a temple without a dedication, a royal tomb without a king, a sacred space without a name for its sacredness. The sheer volume of stone displaced to create these courtyards and monuments is staggering. The purpose remains utterly unfathomable. Nearby, a niche is carved into a cliff face with uncanny accuracy. A vertical slot, 4 meters high, with edges so clean they appear to have been sliced by a massive industrial saw. And scattered throughout the area are dozis. They have been used by Buddhist monks for meditation, quiet cells for contemplation. But this was a later adoption. This pattern of a vanished people leaving behind inscrutable, masterfully carved stone is a faint echo that resonates across the oceans. In the jungles of Mesoamerica, the Olmec civilization, the mother culture from which the Maya and Aztecs would later spring, left behind an equally powerful enigma. Scattered across their former territory are 17 colossal heads, carved from solid basalt. Each depicts a unique, solemn face, weighing many tons, transported from volcanic quarries dozens of miles away through unforgiving jungle terrain. They are virtually the only significant trace of this great civilization. It was the Olmec, researchers now believe, who first conceived of the complex calendar systems later perfected by the Maya, a testament to their sophisticated understanding of time and the cosmos. Yet they're stone portments that have outlived their own meaning. They are the final, enduring statements of peoples who possessed immense skill and a powerful vision, but whose stories have been lost to the wind. The stone remembers the act of creation, but has forgotten the reason. We are left to wander through these impossible landscapes, to gaze upon the work of ghosts, and to wonder at the sheer depth of a human past that remains, and perhaps will always remain, just beyond the reach of our understanding. In the humid depths of Mesoamerica, during the middle of the 19th century, a discovery was made entirely by chance. A shape, vast and unnatural, emerged from the soil of Tres Zapotes. It was a head, carved from a single block of stone, with an artistry that defied its colossal scale. Standing 1.5 meters tall and weighing a staggering 9 tons, it was the first glimpse into a lost world. The very place where the Olmec sourced the basalt for their monumental sculptures. This titan weighs 40 tons, its height a commanding 3.5 meters. It is unique among its brethren, the only Olmec head ever found with its eyes sealed shut, as if in eternal contemplation or repose. 17 such authentic monoliths have now been brought into the light. To gaze upon them is to witness a gallery of ghosts. Each statue possesses unique facial features, rendered with a detail so fine that emotion can still be read across the millennia. These are not generic idols, but portraits frozen in time. The prevailing belief is that they are the stoic faces of the mighty rulers of the Olmec civilization, each one a testament to a king's power and legacy. Yet the heads are only part of the story, a chapter in a much larger epic written in stone. For the Olmec also carved enormous altars from the same monolithic basalt, some of which dwarf even the heaviest of the heads. For years, their purpose was a mystery, until researchers proposed a radical new theory. These were not altars for sacrifice, but thrones from which rulers would preside over their people. The evidence lies etched into the walls of nearby caves, where images depict sovereigns seated upon these very structures. An even more profound discovery was made when geologists and archaeologists looked closer at the heads themselves. Several of them began their lives as these very thrones, only to be meticulously recarved upon the death of the ruler. The seat of power, in a final act of transformation, became the eternal face of the one who had occupied it. Inevitably, modern eyes seek familiar patterns in these ancient faces. Some have pointed to features they interpret as Negroid, sparking theories of transatlantic contact thousands of years before Columbus. Yet this is a projection, a speculation that overlooks the simple fact that such physiognomy is widely present among the indigenous peoples of the region. Other theories suggest Asian or even Australian origins, a testament to the power of these faces to fuel the imagination. Whether fantasy or a forgotten reality, only the silent stone and the passage of time hold the true answer. This compulsion to carve giant heads from the earth is a haunting echo found across the ancient world, a tendency that links the peoples of Central America and Polynesia. The silent, watching moai of Easter Island, the fierce wooden effigies of Hawaii, the solemn Olmec kings. A thread seems to connect them, something more profound than mere coincidence, a shared impulse to give the land a human face. Across the vast expanse of the Pacific, off the coast of Japan, another stone mystery sleeps beneath the waves. In the year 1986, near the island of Yonaguni, a diver exploring the seabed stumbled upon a structure that defied belief. A gargantuan rock formation, scarred with features that seemed to defy nature. Immense, perfectly level terraces, steps tens of meters high, clean, sharp edges, and protrusion. Could the blind forces of erosion and seismic activity alone carve such a world? Japanese marine geologist Masaaki Kimura remains convinced it could not. He argues that the formation is artificial, a series of man-made stepped monoliths, the remnant of a civilization lost to the sea. It is a conclusion many of his peers vehemently dispute, and the debate continues to this day. Professor Kimura points to what he calls irrefutable evidence. Two colossal twin blocks of limestone, a material, he insists, that never fractures on its own with such geometric precision. But perhaps the most persuasive feature, the one that most troubles a purely natural explanation, is what appears to be a basin carved into the summit of the main structure. It is difficult to conceive of a natural process that could gouge the heart from a solid rock while leaving its surrounding walls perfectly intact, reminiscent of the sky citadel of Sigiriya in Sri Lanka. From the jungles of Mesoamerica to the depths of the Japanese Sea, the earth holds its secrets close. These monoliths, separated by an ocean of water and thousands of years, both ask the same fundamental question. They challenge our understanding of the past, suggesting that the story of humanity may be far grander and more mysterious than we have ever allowed ourselves to imagine. They are echoes in stone, waiting for a generation that can finally understand their language. High in the desolate landscapes, carved into the planet's bedrock, lie vast cylindrical chasms that plunge deep into the earth. They are a profound anomaly, a geometric riddle left by an unknown hand. And if their scale is not enough to challenge our understanding, there is more. Along the entire length of one terrace, a perfectly linear channel is scribed with impossible precision into the stone. It runs straight as a laser, a definitive line, as if a master stonemason were marking out a colossal monolith for extraction. For some, these are the ruins of a forgotten city, a remnant of a civilization lost to the deluge, perhaps even the fabled Atlantis. But a more grounded, and perhaps more unsettling theory suggests this was a quarry. Its form is unconventional, yet it retains a familiar, stepped structure, an echo of the great quarries near Sacsayhuaman. It is a place where the raw material of mountains was harvested. But if this is indeed a quarry, it presents us with a catastrophic problem of chronology. For this site to have been operational, the ocean levels must have been significantly lower. This places its origin not thousands, but more than 10,000 years in the past. In an era when conventional history insists humanity was armed with little more than primitive tools of stone and bone. To fit this into the official historical narrative is to try and solve an impossible equation. It becomes clear why mainstream academia prefers not to pursue this line of inquiry. It threatens to shatter the very foundations of our accepted timeline. Fortunately, we are not bound by such constraint. This pattern of stone-carved enigmas is not isolated. Half a world away, another mystery lies hidden in the hills of India, a land saturated with ancient lore and artifacts that few ever speak of. Near the city of Makdumpur 7 unique caves perforate the landscape. 4 are carved into the monolithic Barabar rock, and 3 others into the nearby Yonaguni formations. To gaze upon their entrances is to witness a profound technological dissonance. A monk, clad in simple robes, steps not into a simple cave, but what appears to be the airlock of a starship or the elevator entrance of a modern skyscraper. The material itself is nice, a metamorphic rock even more resilient than granite. Yet its surface has been polished to a lichen more bewildering. When researchers brought in 3-dimensional laser scanners to map their interiors, the results were astounding. The chambers were engineered with a geometric perfection that borders on the supernatural. The precision of the curves, the flatness of the planes, the sharpness of the interior angles, it all pointed to a level of mastery that simply should not exist. The official dating places their creation around 250 years before the Common Era, attributing them to the great Morii of the caves were left unfinished. And here, the rock tells a different story. The walls bear vertical striations, tool marks left behind by the creators. But these are not the small, hesitant chips of a hand-held chisel. The marks indicate a single, continuous cutting stroke of more than a meter in length, suggesting a powerful, mechanical process utterly unknown to the age. Of all these chambers, it is the Gopika cave in the Yonaguni massif that defies belief to a state of absolute completion. Here, every single surface, the walls, the vaulted ceiling, even the floor beneath one's feet, is finished to the same impossible, glassy perfection. The workmanship appears unreal, even by the standards of our own 21st century technology. A far more unsettling possibility emerges, that Ashokuna bull to replicate their creation simply inscribed their names upon the walls, claiming them as their own. These caves also possess bizarre acoustic properties, where sounds reverberate and sustain for an astonishing length of time. To this day, scholars cannot fathom the purpose for which these flawless chambers were created. Were they tombs, sanctuaries, or resonant chambers designed for a purpose we can no longer comprehend? And here, in the dust of the cave floors, we find a familiar, haunting signature, one seen in the quarries on the other side of the world. Strange, parallel tracks, as if left by some unknown machine. The evidence lies etched in the hardest stone on earth, a silent testament to hands or technologies that our history has yet to account for. They are questions carved into the very fabric of the planet, waiting not for our answers, but for us to finally ask the right questions. Across the weathered face of the earth, there are scars, anomalies that defy simple explanation. In the ancient fortress of Sigiriya, Sri Lanka, strange parallel grooves are scored deep into the bedrock, as if a colossal weight had rolled across stone that was inexplicably soft. These are not the marks of common tools or the simple wear of ages. They are a story etched in a language we no longer speak. Within these primary tracks, a secondary pattern emerges. 2 distinct types of imprints, a complex signature left by an unknown process, a silent testament to a forgotten technology. From these enigmatic traces, our journey takes us to the parched lands of Patan, India, to the banks of the once mighty Saraswati River. Here, for centuries, a masterpiece lay buried, swallowed by silt and forgotten by time. It was not until the 1940s that excavators, digging into the earth, rediscovered a wonder known as Rani Ki Vav. On the surface, it is called a stepwell, the largest and most ornate on the planet. But to label it a mere well is to call a cathedral a simple shelter. This is not a structure built upwards, reaching for the heavens. It is a world that descends, an inverted temple plunging 7 stories into the earth. The logic of sacred Hindu architecture, which traditionally soars skyward in magnificent towers, is here turned upon itself. It is a profound architectural statement of the ancient axiom, that which is above is as that which is below. To grasp the concept, one might look at the towering Brihadishvara temple, a monument to celestial aspiration. Then, imagine its blueprint flipped, its holy sanctums and pillared halls mirrored into a subterranean abyss. This is Rani Ki Vav. The ancient builders of this land were no strangers to radical engineering. We see their genius in the monolithic temples carved impossibly from the top down out of living rock. For them, inverting a design as complex as a temple was not an insurmountable obstacle, but an act of conceptual brilliance, as simple as reversing an image in a mirror. The sheer scale of the undertaking is staggering. To begin, someone had to conceive of this subterranean palace, then excavate a colossal pit, removing an estimated 65,000 tons of earth. Then, deep within the wound in the ground, they erected this glorious multi-tiered construction. They did so while battling the relentless pressure of the water table, engineering a way to build in an environment that constantly sought to flood their work. And they did not build a simple, functional structure. They adorned it with more than 1,500 intricate sculptures. Gods, goddesses, and celestial beings stare out from the walls, their forms rendered with breathtaking skill. Here, too, another mystery of Indian mythology presents itself. The immense scale of these so-called deities, towering over the carvings of ordinary humans, hinting at a forgotten hierarchy of beings. Everything about this place speaks of a civilization at its absolute zenith. Officially, the well is dated to the 11th century. Yet when one examines the precision of the work, the artistic style, and the sheer ambition, it feels the phenomenon is not isolated. Elsewhere in India, the Chand Baori stepwell offers another vision of this architectural impulse. It is a vertiginous descent of 3,500 steps, cascading down 13 levels to a depth of over 20 meters. It is a geometric marvel, an architectural abyss that seems to pull the sky down into the earth. And there are whispers that what we see today is not its original form, that its history is even more complex than its staggering appearance suggests. Yet the greatest challenge to our understanding of the past may not lie in these grand inverted worlds, but in the fine details of temples that remained above the ground. At the Hoysaleswara and Amruteshwara temples, the eye is drawn to the pillars. They are not square-hewn blocks or crudely rounded columns. They are objects of impossible precision. To anyone familiar with a modern machine lathe, the sight is immediate and undeniable. The memory surfaces of a school workshop shaping a small wooden candlestick, the chisel held steady as the piece spins, shaving off perfect concentric rings. But this is not a small piece of soft wood. This is basalt and granite, some of the hardest stone on Earth, sculpted into forms that speak of high-speed rotation and hardened cutting tools. Perfect grooves, razor-sharp edges, and polished bands circle the columns with a uniformity that hand carving cannot replicate. We are left not with answers, but with a more profound sense of the questions. From tracks in softened stone, to temples built inside out, to pillars seemingly machined from granite, the evidence accumulates. It suggests a history far richer and more technologically advanced than we are taught to believe. These are not just monuments of faith, but libraries of lost knowledge, a humbling recognition that the past may hold a future we have yet to imagine. In the heart of southern India, locked within ancient temple complexes, stand pillars that defy explanation. 10-ton columns of solid basalt, a stone notoriously difficult to work, bear the unmistakable signature of a technology that should not exist. They were turned, spun at immense speed, and shaped with a precision that scoffs at the notion of manual labor. The suggestion of simple tools, of manpower aided by elephants, disintegrates in the face of the evidence. Some have sought refuge in theories of geopolymers, a kind of advanced, ancient concrete. But the stone itself, in its crystalline structure and geological signature, tells a different story. These are not cast composites. They are monolithic giants carved from the earth. The finish is so immaculate, the polish so profound, that in certain light, the dark stone transforms into a mirror, reflecting the faces of a modern world struggling to comprehend its creation. Here, the mystery deepens, for mainstream science does not entirely disagree. The concentric scoring, the perfect symmetry, these are, by all accounts, the marks of a colossal lathe. The question is not what created them, but how. What forgotten power source, what unrecorded understanding of physics and engineering could have driven such a machine in an era we have consigned to antiquity? The echo of this impossible craftsmanship resounds in the nearby Hoysaleswara temple, a structure that feels born of the same lost science. Here, figures sculpted from the same unforgiving basalt appear not chiseled, but poured, as if a master smith had worked with molten metal rather than stone. The level of detail is bewildering. Ornaments and friezes contain apertures so fine, so impossibly curved, that a needle cannot pass through them. Only something as slender and pliable as a wire or a blade of grass can trace these delicate internal pathways carved through solid rock. And then there is the sound. When struck, the basalt does not return the dull thud of stone. It rings with a sharp, metallic resonance. This acoustic anomaly points to a material of varying densities, a property achievable through a process our own civilization only mastered in the early 20th century: stone casting. The official narrative holds that these are masterpieces of manual carving, a feat of human endurance that would be almost supernatural. Yet, if they were cast, the enigma only intensifies. To fabricate the molds for such intricate three-dimensional forms would demand a technology perhaps even more sophisticated than the casting itself. Among these reliefs, 4 armed deities hold instruments that are curiously technical, their forms unfamiliar, their purpose unknown. These structures are not merely places of worship, they are artifacts, evidence of a civilization that, by some metrics, may have surpassed our own by centuries. From the dense stonework of India, the trail of monolithic mystery leads across the ocean to the highlands of Africa. In Ethiopia, near the town of Lalibela, lies a complex that has been called the New Jerusalem. Here, 11 churches stand in silent testimony to an entirely different, yet equally staggering feat of engineering. They were not built upon the earth, they were excavated from it. Each structure is a single contiguous piece of stone, liberated from the surrounding red volcanic tuff. They were carved from the top down, a subterranean architecture where the builders began with the roof and descended into the ground, hollowing out naves, apses, and windows from the living rock. The most celebrated of these, the Church of St. George, is a perfect cruciform monolith, resting in a deep courtyard, accessible only through a network of trenches and tunnels. Legend tells us that in the 12th century, a pious king, Lalibela, received a divine vision to construct this holy city on earth. The official history is one of faith and simple tools, but to gaze upon the geometric perfection is to question such a simple narrative. When viewed through the lens of modern digital modeling, the true genius is revealed. The perfect right angles, the symmetrical chapels, the integrated drainage systems, all were conceived as a single unified design before the first chisel ever struck the rock. In this subtractive process, there was no room for error. A single miscalculation, a single fracture, and the entire monolithic cathedral would have been lost forever. These sites, separated by thousands of miles and distinct cultures, ask the same fundamental question. They challenge the linear progression of history we hold so dear. They are silent monuments, not merely to the gods they were built to honor, but to the profound and unsettling possibility that our civilization is not the first to have reached such heights of knowledge, and that great wisdom, once gained, can be utterly and completely lost to time. From the sun-scorched highlands of Ethiopia, a vision of impossibility is carved, not upon the landscape, but from within it. Here, monolithic churches do not reach for the heavens, they plunge into the bedrock, a subterranean Jerusalem hewn from a single continuous stone. This is Lalibela. We see its raw, earthen exterior, a fortress of faith fused with the planet itself. And then, its interior, a cool, dark sanctum where shadows dance across walls that have witnessed centuries of devotion. Yet to truly grasp the enigma, one must look where no one was ever meant to see. High above, on the flat rooftops of these stone-carved cathedrals, sits a detail that shatters our understanding of their purpose. Crowning a purely functional, unseen structure is an ornamental element of breathtaking complexity. An intricate stone cross, sculpted with a precision that borders on the obsessive. The question echoes in these silent canyons, a challenge posed to architrome every conceivable vantage point. What forgotten technology allowed artisans to shape volcanic tuff with the delicacy of a jeweler, crafting these elaborate stone puzzles where they would be seen only by the sun and the stars? The questions multiply, while the answers remain buried in time. The official history offers a convenient anchor. We know with certainty that Ethiopia was one of the first nations on Earth to embrace Christianity, adopting it as the state religion around the year 330. It is a logical, even compelling proposition that the genesis of this colossal undertaking began in that era, a monumental political and spiritual statement to the world. The 12th century king, Gebre Meskel Lalibela, for whom the site is named, may not have been the architect, but the author of a new chapter, inscribing his name upon a work far older than himself. He inherited a legacy and, perhaps, rewrote its origins. Further complicating the timeline are the symbols themselves. The distinctive crosses that adorn these structures are immediately associated by many with the Knights Templar, the crusading order who, according to legend, sought refuge in these remote highlands. But this symbol is a palimpsest. Its roots run deeper into the fertile soil of far more ancient cultures, echoing the Ankh of pharaonic Egypt. The evidence increasingly suggests that the foundations of Lalibela were laid long before the first Christian prayers echoed through its chambers. To find the source code for this mystery, we must travel further back in time and 200 miles to the north, Takht-e We find subterranean vaults of unknown purpose, megalithic blocks bound together with metal clamps, and the recurring motif of a false door, a stone portal leading nowhere. In the foundation of one structure, a single 300-ton slab of granite forms the ceiling over a 100-square-meter chamber. Resting atop this, on specially prepared platforms, are colossal obelisks, or stelae. They are carved from blue syenite, a stone of immense hardness found nowhere in the immediate region, each one quarried and shaped from a single monolithic piece of rock. Some speculate a lost technology of stone casting or geopolymer concrete was used, but this does not diminish the feat. It only deepens the mystery. Their dimensions defy belief. One stands at 21 meters, another 24. The largest, now fallen and shattered, measured a staggering 34.5 meters and weighed an estimated 500 tons. Imagine a single block of stone, the height of a 12-story building, quarried, intricately decorated, transported, and then somehow raised to a perfect vertical. This was achieved before the 3rd century, for the tradition of raising such monuments is profoundly pre-Christian. To comprehend this achievement, consider a modern parallel. During their occupation of Ethiopia, Italian forces disassembled one of the smaller 24-meter stelae and transported it to Rome in 3 sections. Its eventual repatriation in 2005 was a global engineering event. It required 3 flights by one of the world's largest cargo aircraft, the Antonov 124, and a state-of-the-art technological operation just to reassemble the 3 pieces. The builders of Axum raised a stele 10 meters taller, and they did it in 1 piece. The ornamentation on these silent giants deserves the closest inspection. Here again we see the false doors. We see intricate, repeating patterns that seem to mimic the floors of a skyscraper. And then we see the symbol. Etched into the hard syenite is the very same distinctive cross found at Lalibela. A coincidence seems an insufficient explanation. But the final, irrefutable link is smaller, a detail easily missed. Protruding from the walls of the Lalibela church upon their surface is the identical feature. This is not a coincidence. This is an architectural fingerprint, a unique signature connecting these 2 impossible sites across hundreds of miles and, potentially, 1,000 years. The story of humanity, it seems, is not a straight line drawn in the sand, but a series of echoes in stone. The accepted narratives of our past are often just the most recent layers of paint on a canvas of immense and forgotten age. Lalibela and Axum do not offer easy answers. They stand as a testament to a chapter of human history whose text is lost, its brilliance surviving only in these silent, monolithic structures. They wait, patient and unyielding, for a generation willing to listen not to the histories that were written, but to the truths that were built. An architectural signature repeated across centuries and hundreds of kilometers of rugged Ethiopian highland. Here, in the monolithic churches of Lalibela, hewn from the living rock, a window is carved. Cruciform, precise, unmistakable. And there, in the ancient capital of Aksum, the same design crowns the apex of a granite stele, a relic from a far older world. The resemblance is not merely passing, it is a perfect echo, a design transferred from one kingdom to another as if by the same hand. This startling connection has given rise to a radical theory that the same master builders, the same forgotten civilization that raised the obelisks of Aksum, also laid the foundational blueprint for Lalibela. In this view, the Canaan wonders, transforming them into sanctuaries, creating a vibrant new culture atop the foundations of an older, perhaps incomprehensible one. A cargo cult, some have controversially suggested, born from the awe of a technology they could no longer replicate, its original purpose lost to the mists of time. And yet, the faith that blossomed here, whatever its origins, produced wonders of its own. The sacred art of Ethiopian Christianity is among the most astonishing in the world. Within these stone sanctuaries, the walls come alive with vivid, soulful frescoes, their wide-eyed saints and angels gazing out from a realm of pure devotion. This haunting sense of a forgotten blueprint, of a story written in stone that precedes our own histories, is not confined to the highlands of Africa. Half a world away, across the Indian Ocean, in the sweltering jungles of Cambodia, lies a testament to a civilization that inscribed its genius not just in a single church, but across an entire landscape. Angkor. They call it the eighth wonder of the world, and for good reason. To this day, it remains the largest single religious complex on the planet. Its scale is difficult to grasp. The site sprawls across nearly 3,000 square kilometers, an area vast enough to swallow 3 Vatican cities. It is a sprawling metropolis built upon an intricate web of canals and reservoirs, a masterpiece of hydrology and civil engineering. The sheer volume of material is staggering, an estimated 10 million tons of sandstone, quarried and ferried from a mountain 80 kilometers distant. This was a city of temples. More than 70 major structures punctuate the landscape, their stone spires reaching for the canopy. The most iconic are Bayon, Angkor Thom, and the Titan itself, Angkor Wat. Photographs fail to convey the true scale of these constructions. They flatten the perspective and diminish the grandeur. Only when a human figure stands at their base does one comprehend the sheer gigantism of the vision. The central tower of Angkor Wat soars 65 meters into the sky, the height of a modern 20-story building. And it was built with an almost supernatural precision. On the day of the vernal equinox, a celestial alignment occurs. As the sun breaches the horizon, it rises in a perfect line with this central tower, a spectacle of cosmic clockwork designed to be witnessed from the temple's main causeway, drawing pilgrims to this day. Nearby, the Temple of Bayon offers a different kind of mystery. From its 54 towers, 216 serene, enigmatic faces gaze out in every direction. Are they the Bodhisattva of compassion, Avalokiteshvara, or the deified image of the god-king who built it? They do not say. They simply watch, their faint smiles holding the secrets of a millennium. The walls themselves are not silent. They are living libraries of stone, covered in the most intricate bas-reliefs imaginable. They were carved with a proficiency that suggests this monumental art was not a struggle, but a language. A single gallery wall, 350 meters long and 3 meters high, is covered in a continuous tapestry of myth and history. And here, among processions of warriors and gods, anomalies appear. A creature that bears a striking resemblance to a gomphothir, an elephantine beast with 4 tusks, believed by paleontologists to have vanished from the earth millions of years before these walls were raised. In another carving, the solar deity Surya is attended by 9 figures. Mainstream scholarship identifies them as the Navagraha, celestial beings from Hindu cosmology. Yet the count, 9, is provocative, mirroring our solar system's planetary count, including 2 worlds, Neptune and Pluto, that would remain invisible to Western astronomy until the 19th and 20th centuries. The grand mysteries are matched by smaller, more intimate puzzles. Stone window grills, carved into delicate balusters with the unmistakable precision of a lathe. A tool, a technique that seems utterly out of place in the 12th century jungle. These silent stones, from Ethiopia to Cambodia, do more than chronicle the histories we know. They ask us to question the very foundations of that knowledge. They stand as monuments not only to the genius of their creators, but to the vastness of what we have forgotten. For what is history, if not the story we choose to tell ourselves, while the grander, more complex truth waits patiently to be rediscovered in the grain of the stone itself? Across the ancient world, a signature is etched into stone. It speaks not of an artist, but of an industry, a capacity for creation on a scale that defies our understanding of the past. Here, monolithic columns of astounding quality stand as silent witnesses, their surfaces bearing the unmistakable marks of tools far beyond the handheld and primitive. An ideal block, perfectly squared and finished, lies abandoned, a testament to a project halted mid-thought. And then there are the enigmatic forms, the so-called lingams, scattered throughout these sites in great numbers. We have assigned them a ritual purpose, yet their precision and uniformity hint at a different story, a technical function now lost to the ages. It forces a profound question. What if the temple was never a temple at all? What if its original purpose was something entirely different, something our modern lexicon struggles to define? The evidence does not whisper, it insists. We journey from these Asian mysteries to the highlands of Peru and Bolivia, to the staggering citadel of Ollantaytambo. Here, the powerful walls are a symphony of impossibly large stones, a sight that can overwhelm any imagination. They are assembled from megalithic blocks, some weighing tens of tons, yet they are fitted together with a precision that seems to mock the very concept of weight and friction. The joints are not the simple, straight lines of modern maste. Stone were once soft clay. Even more astonishing are the blocks that form the facing of the central platform, the wall of the 6 monoliths. These colossal stones reach a height of nearly 4 meters, their surfaces polished to a sheen. And all of this sits atop a mountain, at the summit of steep, winding terraces, a climb that is arduous even for a person carrying nothing at all. Official history tells us this complex was built by the Incas, yet the quarry from which these gargantuan blocks were hewn lies 5 kilometers away, on the opposite side of a wide valley, bisected by the turbulent Urubamba River. The mind struggles to conceive of the logistics. How could blocks weighing as much as 100 tons be transported down one mountain, navigated across a raging river, and then hauled up another to be placed with millimeter accuracy? The builders' methods seem to defy our own industrial logic. There is a deliberate departure from standards, an almost complete absence of uniform, repeatable blocks. Each stone is unique in size and shape. To our modern sensibilities, this suggests chaos. But another interpretation emerges. Perhaps it speaks to an astonishing ease in working with the stone, a technology so advanced that shaping each unique megalith to fit its neighbor was simpler than mass-producing identical bricks. This style of construction also granted the structures immense seismic stability, allowing them to withstand the tremors that so often shake this land. The path from the quarry to the complex is littered with evidence of this monumental effort. They are known as piedras cansadas, the tired stones. Behemoths of 60 tons and more, they lie where they were abandoned, as if the energy required to move them simply ran out. The Peruvian historian Garcilaso de la Vega chronicled a telling account. He wrote that an Inca leader, wishing to cement his authority, gathered 20,000 men and commanded them to haul one of these tired stones up the mountain. The experiment ended in tragedy. The enormous stone broke free from its moorings, crushing 1,000 of the men beneath its weight. It was a brutal lesson in the limits of manpower. Even today, one of these stones, blocking half a modern road, remains where it fell, a challenge too great for contemporary machinery to easily resolve. When we examine the quality of the original blocks, carved from the hardest black basalt, the contrast is breathtaking. The precision is utterly incomparable to the later, cruder additions made by the Inca. It resembles the output of a machine, not the patient work of hand tools. The polygonal walls, with their perfect, mortarless seams, stand as a rebuke to our assumptions. An intriguing theory suggests the complex was found, not built, by the Incas, that it was the ruin of a much older civilization, partially destroyed by a cataclysmic flood that swept through the mountains. In this version of history, the Incas were not the master builders, but the inheritors, who settled here and attempted to repair and restore the grandeur they had discovered. Looking upon the elegant forms, the flawless joinery, and the clean geometric cuts, one understands that primitive technology is simply not part of this equation. This was not masonry, it was geology, reshaped on an industrial scale. Even among the local people today, a belief persists that the greatest structures of Peru were not the work of their known ancestors. They are the legacy of another time, another people, another power entirely. The stones do not lie. They simply wait, holding the memory of a capability we have long since forgotten, challenging the very timeline of human ingenuity we have written for ourselves. Carved into the highlands of Peru, the stones tell a story that defies our own. They speak of a civilization that rose, and perhaps fell, 10,000 years ago. To entertain this thought, one need only stand before the megalithic gates of the Andes, or the sprawling complex of Sacsayhuaman. This is no ordinary fortress. Its interlocking walls, crafted from stones weighing hundreds of tons, fit together with a precision that modern tools would struggle to replicate. The entire structure seems less a human fortification and more a launch pad for titans, a silo awaiting a vessel from the stars. Nearby, the citadel of Machu Picchu clings to a mountain ridge, a testament to an impossible mastery of stone. Here, bedrock and boulder are not merely built upon, but are seamlessly integrated, cut and shaped in seemingly arbitrary directions with surgical accuracy. In the sacred sites of Kenko, the living rock is sliced and hollowed, forming altars and channels that resemble less a place of worship and more a scientific outpost or a vast radar installation listening to the cosmos. We are confronted by the famous 12-angled stone in Cusco, a puzzle piece in a wall so perfect it seems liquid stone was poured into a mold. We see stairways carved from a single block and passages hewn with an unnerving smoothness. It feels as though these landscapes were not chiseled, but sculpted from cosmic clay by the hands of giants. The evidence compels us to ask, what tools were at their disposal? The clean cuts and polished surfaces suggest technologies far beyond hammering and abrasion. They whisper of diamond-tipped circular saws, of high-pressure hydro-abrasive jets, perhaps even the focused energy of lasers or sonic frequencies. Technologies we have only recently harnessed, or others that remain entirely unknown to us. The Andes are saturated with the footprints of a profoundly advanced culture, a silent testament demanding re-examination. From these impossible heights, we descend to the arid plains below, where another enigma is etched into the very earth. The Nazca Lines. For centuries they lay unnoticed, a secret kept from all who walk the ground. Here, across an immense desert canvas, more than 1,300 lines, geometric shapes, and colossal figures of animals and humanoids stretch for miles. The purpose of these geoglyphs, some dating back over 1,000 years, remains one of history's most profound mysteries. We know only that an unimaginable expanse of dark, rust-colored stone was meticulously cleared away to reveal the lighter earth beneath. Their true forms, their breathtaking scale, are revealed only from a significant altitude. The implication is as clear as the designs themselves. For their creators, achieving a view from the heavens was not a significant obstacle. And the mystery does not end at Nazca. Just 20 kilometers to the north, the Palpa Plateau holds its own collection of cryptic messages. Here, the geoglyphs are older, arguably more complex. We find not just figures, but elaborate labyrinths, patterns resembling an Indian mandala, and strange, humanoid beings staring up at the sky. We are not looking at an isolated phenomenon, but a tradition of earth moving on a planetary scale, a gargantuan effort whose meaning is lost to the wind. Now we travel north to the heart of Mexico, to a place the Aztecs named Teotihuacan, the place where the gods were born. This sprawling city of pyramids is often attributed to the great Mesoamerican cultures, but the facts suggest a deeper history. The original builders, who predated the Maya and Aztec by centuries, were a different people entirely. When the city was rediscovered, it was buried under a thick shroud of earth and vegetation. The Great Pyramids have been restored multiple times, their exteriors now faced with smaller, more manageable stones. But in areas off-limits to tourists, a different story is told. Here, piles of the original casing stones lie discarded. They are immense, perfectly cut, and stagger the imagination, hinting at a far more sophisticated initial construction. Here, too, we find stairways that ascend into nothingness, and a grand avenue aligned with celestial precision. It has been noted by many that the layout of the three main pyramids of Teotihuacan mirrors the three pyramids of Giza in Egypt, both sets an earthly reflection of the stars in Orion's belt. This startling parallel suggests a shared knowledge, a global blueprint connecting civilizations across vast oceans. The final, haunting echo is found in the construction itself. The polygonal masonry, The interlocking, mortarless stones seen in the oldest parts of the city bear an uncanny resemblance to the stonework of Peru. We are left standing in the shadow of these monuments, confronted by a pattern. From the Andes to the deserts of Nazca, from the Valley of Mexico to the banks of the Nile, we see the echoes of the same master builders. They left behind a silent stone library of their achievements, a puzzle scattered across the globe. The question is not simply who they were or what technologies they possessed. The true question is what their existence means for our own story, whether we are the pinnacle of civilization or merely the inheritors of a world once shaped by gods. Across the sun-scorched earth of the Americas, a structure sleeps beneath a hill, crowned by a church. This is the Great Pyramid of Cholula, a man-made mountain whose sheer volume eclipses even the famed Pyramid of Khufu in Egypt. It is a silent, sprawling testament to a forgotten scale of ambition. But it is far from alone. Around the globe, other, even more enigmatic fingerprints of a lost civilization lie hidden in plain sight, challenging the very foundations of our recorded history. Our journey takes us to the Levant, a crossroads of empires, where two sites whisper of an impossible past. High in the Golan Heights stands the Nimrod Fortress. Beneath its weathered walls lie ruins of a different order entirely. Cyclopean blocks, some approaching 40 tons, fitted together with unnerving precision. Here, a section of a spiral staircase, carved impossibly from a single solid block of stone, lies discarded. Inside the surviving structures, ceilings soar to a height of 8 meters, dwarfing those who walk beneath them. Legend names its builder Nimrod, a giant from ancient lore. Perhaps this was the only way our ancestors could explain such a construction, a feat not of men but of titans. Yet this fortress is but a prelude. In the heart of Jerusalem, the Temple Mount stands as one of the most sacred sites on earth. But it is what lies beneath, the retaining wall of this ancient platform, that truly defies explanation. The total volume of its stonework rivals that of a medium-sized Egyptian pyramid. In the archaeological park adjacent to the Western Wall, the evidence is overwhelming. We see colossal blocks, some weighing over 600 tons, shaped with a level of craftsmanship that modern machinery would struggle to replicate. One such stone, more than 12 meters in length, was not laid at the foundation, but hoisted and placed upon a pre-existing layer of smaller blocks, an engineering absurdity. The true mystery, however, lies deeper. In the excavated tunnels that run alongside the wall, archaeologists have descended into the earth, peeling back the layers of millennia. They have dug down 40 meters. They have passed 18 distinct layers of construction, and still, the foundation is not in sight. The base of this structure remains a profound enigma, lost to the depths of time. The megalithic blocks continue, relentless and massive, far below the world of the Roman Empire, far below any known builder. The character of the stonework, the sheer size of the blocks, the impossibly fine joints, they are nearly identical to those found at another ancient marvel, Baalbek in Lebanon. The evidence suggests a shared hand, a single masterful culture whose name and history have been utterly erased. If the Levant whispers of a lost technology, the quarries of ancient China scream it from the mountaintops. 15 kilometers from Nanjing, the ancient capital, lies the Yangshan Quarry. Here, frozen in the process of creation, are 3 monoliths of such staggering scale they beggar belief. They were never moved, never used, left attached to the bedrock as an eternal testament to a project of incomprehensible ambition. The smallest of the three, the head of the monument, weighs an estimated 6,000 tons. Carved upon its surface are protruding bosses, a peculiar feature seen on megalithic stones in far-flung Peru and Egypt, a faint echo of a shared global technique. Nearby lies the body, a 9,000-ton behemoth. It is the longest single piece of quarried stone in the world. If stood on its end, it would tower over the Statue of Liberty. But even these are dwarfed by the third piece, the base. It weighs approximately 16,000 tons, 30 meters long, 16 meters high, and 13 meters thick. It is more than 10 times the mass of the largest known stone at Baalbek. Official history offers a simple explanation. In the 15th century, the Yongle emperor commanded that a giant stele be carved to honor his deceased father, and these three pieces were to be its components. The story concludes that the builders, midway through the project, simply realized they had overestimated their abilities and could never hope to move such weights. This explanation, however, collapses under the weight of the evidence itself. To gaze upon the sheer walls of the quarry, to comprehend the scale of these perfectly hewn mountains of rock, is to understand that the people who accomplished this were not prone to miscalculation. The notion that a civilization capable of carving 16,000 tons of solid rock with such precision would simply abandon it due to a sudden lack of foresight feels profoundly inadequate. These stones are not relics of failure. They are questions carved in granite, challenging our comfortable timeline of progress. They suggest a chapter of human capability so advanced, so powerful, that its memory has survived not in texts, but only in the silent, immovable evidence of its ambition. The question is not if the sheer walls of the quarry were smoothed, but why? Why would any civilization undertake the colossal, seemingly nonsensical task of dressing a cliff face to a perfect vertical plane? The first casualty of such a theory is logic itself. The expenditure of time, of human effort, would be astronomical, serving no practical purpose. Furthermore, it would transform the worksite into a death trap. A sheer, featureless wall offers no purchase, no safety. In an industry where gravity is a constant and unforgiving adversary, such a design is an open invitation to disaster. A single misstep promises a fatal plunge from an immense height. Even a stone, the size of a clenched fist, becomes a lethal projectile when falling from the precipice. This approach contradicts the fundamental principles of safety and efficiency that have governed quarrying for millennia. In the long and storied history of hewing stone, from the ancient world to the modern era, a single, logical principle has always prevailed: the terrace, quarriumly practical. It allows for the systematic transport of blocks, provides stable platforms for equipment, and, critically, protects workers below from the constant threat of rockfalls and collapse. The truth of Yangshan, it seems, is not found in what was done to these walls, but in what was taken from them. These sheer faces are not a finished surface, but a scar, the negative space left behind by the removal of other, equally monumental blocks. They were not smoothed intentionally. Their flatness is simply the consequence of quarrying monoliths on a scale that beggars belief. A careful survey of the lower quarry suggests that at least 12 more monoliths, each rivaling the gargantuan stele that remains, could have been hewn from this single section. Across the entire site, the number could rise to as many as 30. The inescapable conclusion is that we are looking at only a fraction of the original operation. An entire mountain, methodically dissected, its titanic components spirited away to an unknown fate for an unknown purpose. But here, the narrative fractures. Etched into the stone are the unmistakable traces of manual labor. The rhythmic, percussive scars of a common pickaxe, a tool held in a human hand. A profound dilemma emerges. On one hand, the humble signature of human hands. On the other, an industrial scale that defies comprehension, a feat of engineering that seems to mock the very limits of muscle and sinew. The notion of hauling these masses with elephants and timber rollers dissolves into absurdity. Two divergent paths of explanation present themselves. The first points to a lost chapter of history, a symbiosis of man and machine, a civilization that paired the patient, detailed work of human hands with a technology so advanced it remains beyond our understanding. The second, more unsettling theory suggests the paradox is not ancient, but modern, that the tool marks are a fabrication, a deliberate anachronism carved into the stone, perhaps as recently as 50 years ago, to anchor this inexplicable site within a more comfortable, conventional history. It is a form of archaeological camouflage designed to quell the very questions it now provokes. A final tantalizing clue lies not on the walls, but on the quarry floor, beneath the largest megalith. Why was its upper surface so meticulously leveled? One hypothesis presents a staggering vision of forgotten engineering. The block, once severed from the bedrock, was never intended to rest on the ground. It was designed to settle upon precisely carved rectangular pedestals that still remain. This would leave a crucial gap between the earth and the stone's underbelly, a space engineered for lifting cables, for a method of transport that did not involve dragging, but hoisting. A technology that could lift thousands of tons and carry them, perhaps, through the air itself. The Yangshan quarry does not offer up its secrets easily. It stands as a silent monument, not to what was built, but to what was moved and what was lost. The stone remembers a purpose we have forgotten, a power we can no longer grasp, leaving us to wonder not only how our ancestors accomplished such feats, but why. In the year 1992, in the Chinese province of Zhejiang, a secret hidden for millennia was disturbed. From the surface, there was nothing to see, only a series of unassuming ponds. Scattered alones were simply a feature of the land, a place for fishing and quiet contemplation. It began not an archaeologist's map, but with a fisherman's curiosity. A local farmer, having pulled an unusually large fish from one of the ponds, became convinced that its depths held more than just common carp. He wondered what treasures or what greater bounty might lie beneath the murky water. And so, with a simple water pump and a powerful sense of intuition, he began an act that would rewrite the region's history. As the water level receded, it did not reveal a muddy, sloping basin. Instead, stone walls began to emerge. Straight, sheer, and impossibly vast, they plunged into the darkness below. He had not drained a pond. He had unsealed a lost world. What he had discovered were the Longyou grottos. Today, we know of at least 45 such caverns, with 36 of them now pumped dry, each a silent subterranean cathedral. The scale of the undertaking is difficult to comprehend. Some chambers reach heights of 30 meters, their ceilings vanishing into the gloom. Though they differ in size, with an average grotto covering a staggering 1,000 square meters, they share an unnerving uniformity in design. To create this underground network, their builders excavated nearly 1 million cubic meters of solid siltstone. It is a volume of rock approaching half of the total stonework used to construct the Great Pyramid of Giza, all carved from beneath the earth, leaving no trace on the surface. Inside, the mystery only deepens. The walls and ceilings are covered in a uniform pattern of chiseled markings, a distinctive style of tooling found nowhere else on Earth. The parallel, evenly spaced grooves are reminiscent not of ancient hand tools, but of the immense cutting machinery used in modern mining operations. Massive stone columns, sculpted with an enigmatic elegance, rise from the floor to support the tons of rock above. Stone bridges connect ledges that lead nowhere. Staircases ascend toward walls, their purpose unfulfilled or perhaps beyond our understanding. Every grotto is a masterpiece of precision engineering, yet not a single historical text, not one ancient scroll, ever mentions their existence. Perhaps most perplexing is the complete absence of evidence for the work itself. There are no traces of soot from torches or oil lamps, which would have been essential for working in the absolute darkness. No tools have ever been found, no signs of human habitation, no pottery shards, no bones. The stone floors show no wear from the passage of countless feet. It is as if the grottos were willed into existence and then abandoned in the same instant. Even the modern additions, crude carvings etched into the walls to attract tourism, serve only as a jarring act of vandalism, a stark reminder of what is lost when we try to add our own voice to a silent past. For years, theories swirled. Were they ancient tombs, imperial palaces, a secret military base? Yet, the most compelling answer may have been in plain sight all along, hinted at by the very water that concealed them. At the bottom of each grotto lies a precisely carved rectangular chamber. Even in the grottos that are painstakingly pumped dry for visitors, these lower chambers perpetually, stubbornly, refill with water. The caves are situated near a river, and these deep basins tap directly into a subterranean aquifer. When we look to other storage of fresh water, the Longyor grottos, however, appear to be a far more sophisticated system. They are not merely passive reservoirs for rainwater, they are a hybrid of a cistern and a well, actively drawing water from the earth itself. The gently sloped floors are designed so that any silt or debris would naturally settle in one corner, simplifying cleaning and ensuring the purity of the water. Given their immense size and number, this was no simple village well. This was an industrial-scale waterworks, built to support a population or an industry so significant its complete erasure from history is the central enigma. The great irony of the Longyor grottos is that their mystery was solved by their function. The secret of their purpose was not buried in a tomb or written on a scroll. It was the very element that kept them hidden. For thousands of years, long after their creators had vanished and their name was forgotten, the caves continued to do exactly what they were built to do. They gathered water silently, efficiently, and perfectly. Their purpose has outlasted the memory of their own creation, a testament to an anonymous genius whose legacy is not a monument to a king, but a perfectly engineered void, still serving the land long after its masters have turned to dust. In the heart of Sri Lanka, a monolithic column of rock looms over the jungle canopy. This is Sigiriya. Official history tells a clear story. A fortress palace, built in the 4th century of our era by a patricidal king, Kashyapa, seeking an impregnable refuge. The vast, sprawling complex of brick and plaster that clings to its slopes attests to this royal ambition. But look closer. Read the stone itself, and a second, far more ancient narrative emerges. Here, 2 distinct legacies are etched into the mountain, the work of 2 civilizations separated by an impassable gulf of time. The later construction is clear, countless bricks laid by human hands. But beneath it, fused with it, is something else entirely. A technology that treats solid rock not as an obstacle to be quarried, but as a medium to be molded. At the summit, the evidence is staggering. The peak of the mountain appears to have been sheared away, planed to a perfect level. Upon this impossible platform, a precise parallelogram, 6 meters by 6 meters, is carved directly from the living stone. Within it, a shape resembling a vast couch takes form, a feature that could be a throne, or perhaps an anchor for some lost artillery piece, some forgotten technical device. Nearly everything here is monolithic, not built upon the rock, but carved from it, a seamless union of geology and design. In places, the contrast is laid bare. An ancient, enigmatic object of unknown purpose is visibly encased by the much later, cruder brickwork of King Kashyapa's era. The engineers of this lost age carved cisterns and pools directly into the bedrock. The largest measures 27 by 20 meters, with a depth of 2. To create this single reservoir, more than 3,000 tons of solid granite had to be excavated and removed. At the very pinnacle, a colossal granite boulder weighing an estimated 2,000 tons rests precariously on a series of small stone supports. It is clearly a fragment of the original summit, perhaps detached by some natural cataclysm. Guides propose a military purpose, that it was positioned to be toppled upon an advancing enemy. A plausible theory, yet it deliberately ignores the central, unfathomable question. By what method could human beings, at any point in history, have lifted and precisely positioned such a weight at this dizzying altitude? The most profound enigma, however, lies halfway to the sky. Here, guarding the final ascent, are the Lion's Gate. 2 titanic paws, sculpted from the unyielding granite, are all that remain of a supposedly larger structure. Legend claims they once belonged to a colossal lion, its head and torso forming an archway through which visitors would pass. The head, they say, simply fell away into oblivion. But these are not the paws of a lion. A forensic examination reveals a stark anatomical inconsistency. A lion possesses 5 digits, with the prominent dew claw, its thumb, located on the inner side of the paw. The creature immortalized here has only 4. 3 massive forward-facing talons, and a 4th, smaller, almost rudimentary digit positioned on the outer edge. The name Sigiriya itself, meaning lion rock, are struggling to interpret what they saw. Perhaps, seeing a great beast carved in stone, they reached for the most familiar comparison, the Sphinx of Egypt. A grand monument of an animal must, therefore, be a lion. And so the name has persisted, a historical error carved into the very identity of the place. If not a lion, Then what? The paws of reptiles, lizards, crocodiles, do not match. They too have 5 digits. There is a fleeting resemblance to the talons of a great bird of prey, an owl or an eagle. One could even turn to mythology, to the ambiguous depictions of the griffin. Yet the closest known morphology belongs to a creature long vanished from the earth. A great digit is on the wrong side. The mystery only deepens. We are left with a monument that defies its own name, a technology that defies its own time. Perhaps we are asking the wrong questions. Perhaps a known animal, but a perfect representation of one we have entirely forgotten. A creature that lived on only in the oldest myths, a memory from a time when the world was shaped not by kings, but by giants. In the heart of Sri Lanka, a monolith of hardened magma claws at the sky. This is Sigiriya, the Lion Rock, a place where myth and history are fused into the very stone. Here, local lore whispers of Ravana, the demon king of Hindu epic, who is said to have ruled this island kingdom in a forgotten epoch. Izans sought to immortalize in the colossal paws that guard the ascent. Or perhaps they simply carved the most fearsome predator their world had ever known. The mystery only deepens underfoot. The plateau is scarred with a baffling array of markings. Some are clean rectangular channels, eerily reminiscent of the tracks left by a modern bulldozer. Others are enigmatic lines, etched into the hardest rock in the most inaccessible locations. Their purpose and method of creation lost to time. One must ask, what colossal force was brought to bear upon this landscape? And then there is the citadel itself. An enduring question is how the original ascent was even possible. Today, a metal staircase ferries visitors to the summit, but this is a modern convenience. The original path was a marvel of ancient logistics. Over 3 million bricks were carried to a height of 200 meters. 3,000 marble steps, quarried from an unknown location, were hauled up the sheer rock face. This was not merely construction. It was an act of defiance against gravity itself, a testament to a will that could move mountains, one stone at a time. Sigiriya appears to be a canvas painted by 2 distinct eras. One, a far more ancient civilization, were the megalithic builders. They were masters of stone, capable of cutting and shaping the bedrock with incomprehensible precision. The other culture arrived 16 centuries ago under the reign of King Kashyapa. They were masters of brick and mortar, and they swathed the ancient stone core in countless layers of their own creation, building the terraced gardens and the palace in the clouds. The result is a fascinating, if somewhat dissonant, fusion of 2 profoundly different technological ages. One can only wonder what the first original version of this struck. This echo of a forgotten age of engineering is not confined to the Teardrop Island. Half a world away, in the archipelago of Japan, the same questions are asked of the silent stones. Modern Japan is a symbol of hyper-advanced technology, yet scattered across its landscape are proofs of a civilization whose capabilities rival our own in their own context. Consider the Ishibutai Kofun, a tomb built from stones weighing upwards of 100 tons each. We are left to wonder not only how its builders achieved this feat, but why they felt it necessary. Why construct a chamber of eternal rest with blocks of such immense skygma, as if the ancient inhabitants of Japan had access to colossal cranes of their own? Deeper in a dense forest, near a great hill, lies a more peculiar object, the Masuda Iwafune. An 800-ton block of carved granite, it rises 5 meters from the forest floor. Its appearance is stunningly precise. The design is a study in deliberate asymmetry, with 2 square basins carved into its summit, and its surfaces are finished to a quality that speaks of advanced techno. Historical documents mention its creation. Yet, scientific analysis of the stone has revealed traces of cobalt, a remarkably rare and durable metal, now prized in the manufacturing of high-performance components for modern industry. And there is more. The megalith of Ishino-Hoden, weighing 600 tons, was not built up, but carved down. Artisans quarried away more than 100 tons of the surrounding bedrock, leaving behind a massive, semi-detached cube with a distinct triangular prism carved into one side. The sheer volume of rock removed is staggering, a testament to an almost obsessive dedication. These silent monoliths of Sri Lanka and Japan are not merely relics of the past. They are questions carved in stone, challenging our linear perception of history. They suggest that the story of human ingenuity is not a simple, unbroken ascent, but a series of peaks and valleys, with heights of knowledge gained and then inexplicably lost. We are left to gaze upon their work, separated by an impassable gulf of time, and wonder what other forgotten worlds lie buried just beneath the surface of our own. In the vast blue emptiness of the Pacific, it lies in splendid isolation, the most remote inhabited island on the planet, Rapa Nui. To reach its shores requires a journey of over 3,500 kilometers from the nearest continent, a 5-hour flight from Santiago, Chile, across an unbroken expanse of ocean. It is a world unto itself, a place that once nurtured a culture of astonishing complexity, a culture that developed its own unique and still undeciphered script, Rongo Rongo, and gave the wider world the concept of mana, a spiritual force, an internal energy that resides in people and objects. But Rapa Nui is known for something else, for the silent, brooding figures that haunt its landscape. The Moai. Popular imagination pictures a handful of giant heads on a grassy slope. This is a profound misunderstanding. The island is a graveyard and a gallery for nearly 900 of these monolithic statues. They are not just heads. An excavation in the year 2012 confirmed what archaeologists had long known, revealing the immense torsos hidden for centuries beneath the soil. The iconic face is a mere fraction, often just 3/8, of a complete figure, buried deep in the earth as if by some ancient cataclysm. The average statue stands 10 meters tall and weighs a staggering 50 tons. They were carved, every single one, from the hardened volcanic tuff of a single quarry. The extinct volcano Rano Raraku in the island's northeast. Here, the work of the creators is frozen in time, an industrial-scale operation suddenly abandoned. Some figures lie prone, as if they fell while being moved. Others stand alone, solitary sentinels on the wind-swept hills. And in the heart of the quarry lies the ultimate testament to their ambition, the largest moai ever attempted. Unfinished, still fused to the bedrock, it would have stood over 20 meters tall. Its estimated weight, 265 tons, the weight of a modern passenger jet. The questions are immediate, and they defy simple answers. Mainstream archaeology tells us these are the deified ancestors of the island's chiefs. Experiments have been conducted demonstrating how teams of islanders could, theoretically, walk the statues across the land using ropes and brute force. But this explanation frays at the edges. It does not account for moving 50-ton giants down precipitous slopes without shattering them, nor does it explain how they were then hoisted atop the stone platforms, the ahu, some of which stand 3 meters high. These platforms present a mystery of their own. They are not crude piles of rock. They exhibit features of breathtakingly precise stonemasonry, fitting together with an exactitude that seems to mock the suggestion of simple stone tools. In the separate quarry, where the statue's red stone hats, or pukao, were carved, investigators have found evidence of ancient mechanical-style cuts, perfectly straight incisions into hard rock that are difficult to replicate even today. Modern science has been brought to bear, with attempts to probe the dense stone with ultrasound, but the results were inconclusive. The stone keeps its secrets. Some of the cuts are so clean, the surfaces so sheer, they appear to have been sliced by machine. More unsettling are the strange impressions found on certain stones, as if the rock itself was somehow softened. Ignore the data points that disrupt our tidy conclusions about the past. Despite the confident headlines that periodically claim the mystery has been solved, no single coherent theory can account for all the evidence. Why the mass production? What sudden event halted this island-wide obsession in its tracks, leaving hundreds of statues in transit or still in the womb of the volcano? The moai themselves offer no answers. With few exceptions, they do not look out to the sea, to the world beyond. They face inward, their backs to the vast ocean, their gaze fixed upon the island's villages. They are eternal guardians, watching over the land of their descendants. They stand in silent judgment of our own fleeting understanding, a permanent question carved in stone. Upon the loneliest shore on earth, silent stone sentinels stand watch. Nearly all of the great moai of Rapa Nui turn their backs to the vast, empty Pacific, their gaze fixed inward upon the island they seem to protect. Yet one group defies this ancient convention. 7 figures, weathered by salt and time, stare out across the waves. Local tradition holds that these are not mere statues, but guardians, the island's first line of defense against the unknown. Among their ranks, another anomaly resides, a single, unique figure, carved not from the usual volcanic tuff, but from a different stone entirely. It is not standing, but kneeling, its form captured in an eternal posture of prayer, a silent testament to a belief system we can no longer fully comprehend. But for sheer incomprehensible scale, we must travel across the globe to the sun-scorched Bekaa Valley of Lebanon. Here lies Baalbek, a ruin of such impossible magnitude that it challenges the very foundations of our understanding of the ancient world. At the base of its grand Roman temple complex lies an archaeological enigma known as the Trilithon. These are 3 monolithic blocks of limestone, the largest ever used in a man-made structure. Each stone stretches over 19 meters in length, nearly 5 meters in width, and 4 meters in height. The weight of each is estimated at a staggering 800 tons. And they were not merely set upon the ground, they were lifted with unimaginable precision to a height of 7 meters, forming a retaining wall of titanic proportions. They rest upon a course of smaller, yet still colossal blocks, each a giant in its own right. The true scale of this ambition, however, is found a short distance away in the ancient quarry. Here, the work was frozen in time, leaving behind a series of leviathans still tethered to the earth. The stone of the south, and beneath it two others, lie in wait. But one, known as the Forgotten Stone, holds the world record. It is the single largest block of stone ever hewn by human hands. Its weight is calculated at 1,670 tons. Its dimensions are a fantasy of engineering, over 19.5 meters long, 6 meters wide, and 5.5 meters tall. Its base remains connected to the bedrock, an umbilical cord to the planet itself, a project of such audacity that it was, for reasons unknown, abandoned. Archaeologists theorize these stones were destined for the Great Temple platform. The podium of the trilithon is visibly incomplete. It is missing precisely 10 blocks of a similar size to fill the gap. The Forgotten Stone, the Lagan. This would have created a canonical Roman podium, but on a scale that beggars belief. To complete such a design would have required raising an additional 14 blocks, each weighing over 1,500 tons to the very top. The mind falters at the logistics, at the sheer force required. Some even hypothesize that the Romans, master builders in their own right, did not originate this megalithic style, but discovered a far older foundation here and simply built upon it, inheriting a legacy of forgotten giants. Today, the site is dominated by the exquisitely preserved Temple of Bacchus. It is an architectural marvel, the jewel of Baalbek. But it was never the main attraction. It stood in the shadow of the true heart of the complex, the great Temple of Jupiter. Had it survived the ravages of earthquakes and empires, the Temple of Bacchus would be but a footnote. All that remains of Jupiter's sanctuary are 6 colossal columns, the largest to survive from antiquity. They tower 19 meters into the sky, the height of a modern 5-story building. Beside this temple, the Parthenon in Athens would have seemed a miniature. We know for certain these columns were not quarried locally. They are carved from Aswan granite, a stone found only in the distant quarries of Egypt. These monolithic shafts were somehow transported across land and sea, then hoisted atop the 7-meter-high platform of the trilithon. This platform, in turn, rests upon an even older substructure, a hollow foundation containing a series of vaulted tunnels so vast that the writer Mark Twain, visiting in the 19th century, remarked that a freight train could comfortably pass through them. Today, these tunnels house a museum, but of all the artifacts on display, none is more impressive than the tunnel itself, the cavernous, perfectly engineered space that supports a wonder of the world. It is here, in the cool, dark heart of the foundation, that the true mystery of Baalbek resides. The Romans built temples to their gods, but they built them upon a work that seems to belong to the gods themselves. The stones do not speak. They offer no names, no dates, no explanations. They are simply there, a silent, overwhelming fact, a testament to an ambition that borders on the divine. It is a silence that asks a single, humbling question. What else have we forgotten? The wonder of this place does not end with its foundation. In a far corner of the complex, a grand staircase ascends towards the sky. But these are not mere steps assembled from smaller blocks. Each is a trilithon, a colossal 3-stone arrangement hewn and shaped into the form of a stairway. At least 10 more of these monolithic giants lie scattered throughout the site, silent testaments to an abandoned ambition. Nowhere else in the known world does such a feature exist. a monumental staircase carved from single, solid pieces of rock. The question, as immense as the stones themselves, hangs heavy in the air. Who built this impossible complex? The theories range from the mundane to the truly fantastical. Perhaps the most audacious claim is that Baalbek is a grand deception, a folly constructed in the 19th century for reasons unknown. A puzzle box created solely for future generations to ponder. Other, more esoteric hypotheses suggest a world fundamentally different from our own, a time when the laws of gravity were more forgiving, or when structures of this magnitude could be raised by the sheer power of thought. A more grounded yet equally mythic explanation speaks of giants. Ancient lore whispers of the Adites, a lost race of towering beings. It tells of King Nimrod, who, after the Great Flood, is said to have rebuilt Baalbek with the aid of titans, the very same Nimrod credited with the infamous Tower of Babel. It is a beautiful and compelling narrative, weaving the structure into the very fabric of human mythology. Yet, for all its poetic grandeur, it remains a story without evidence. The cold stone offers a different account. The tool marks etched into the surfaces, still visible after millennia, speak not of giants but of men. They are the scars left by picks, chisels, and wedges of a familiar human scowl. Some have tried to reconcile this paradox by suggesting the blocks were not quarried at all, but cast from an ancient form of concrete. This, however, directly contradicts the geological fact. The stones are solid limestone, hewn from the earth. Furthermore, if one were to cast such blocks, it would be done on site, at the temple platform itself, not in a quarry a mile away, creating an unnecessary and colossal transportation problem. This leads to another, more compelling hypothesis, that Baalbek was built by a lost, ancient civilization, a culture possessing technologies that allowed them to quarry, move, and place these megaliths with relative ease. This theory has its proponents, even within academic circles, as it elegantly solves the engineering puzzle. But it suffers from one fatal flaw: a complete and total lack of supporting evidence. The gigantic structure stands, but the tools that built it, the infrastructure that supported its creators, the factories and workshops, all have vanished without a trace. This profound absence of evidence forces many who seek an alternative explanation down a narrow intellectual tunnel. It leads to a conclusion born of elimination. If a highly advanced terrestrial civilization left no trace of its industry, then perhaps it was never terrestrial to begin with. The theory posits that a civilization from beyond our world arrived, completed its inscrutable work, and then departed, taking all of its instruments and machinery with it. They built their monument and simply went home. Only in this scenario, it is argued, do all the pieces of the puzzle seem to fit. But what does the verifiable record tell us? The first historical mention of this place appears in the Amarna letters from ancient Egypt, dating to the 14th century before the Common Era. Long before the Romans arrived, this was the site of a great Phoenician temple, dedicated to the worship of Baal, the powerful god of storm and fertility. For ages, Baal was a principal deity in these lands, revered and honored. But as empires rose and fell, as religious currents shifted, his divinity was slowly eroded. The mighty god was demonized, his name eventually relegated to lists of infernal beings in later Abrahamic traditions. It is a transformation as stark and absolute as the overthrow of a political regime. where the heroes of the old order become the villains of the new. Historians maintain that this entire megalithic foundation is the work of successive human empires, each building upon the last. And yet, the scale of the earliest stones defies the known capabilities of even the greatest of them. The mystery endures, locked within the silent heart of the limestone. Here, gods have been dethroned and forgotten, yet their temple endures, a silent, unyielding question etched into the very bedrock of the world. For more than 2 centuries, the work here never ceased. A relentless, multi-generational effort to raise a monument of staggering scale. Yet, on one point, all who study these ruins agree. The grand design was never completed. What stands today is not a finished temple, but the magnificent ghost of an impossible ambition. Through these silent colonnades have passed the Phoenicians and the Egyptians, the Greeks and the Romans. Their echoes were later joined by the tread of Muslim armies, who in the Middle Ages repurposed this sacred precinct into a fortress, its divine purpose scarred by the brutal pragmatism of war. For long years it endured the fury of iconoclasm, its pagan carvings defaced by both Christian and Muslim hands, each seeking to erase the legacy of the other. The narrative we can piece together begins to solidify in the late 1st century before our era. This land was then a province of the Roman Empire, Judea, and its ruler was a man whose name would become infamous, Herod the Great. History remembers him as a tyrant, but it must also remember him as the great builder. It is to his monumental vision that many attribute the foundational structures we see here. Written records confirm that Herod actively financed colossal construction projects throughout Roman territories, a calculated strategy of architectural diplomacy designed to fortify his own precarious power. Specialists are convinced that the same hand, the same ambition, was behind the grand reconstruction of the Second Temple in Jerusalem. The evidence is etched in the stone itself. In Jerusalem and here in Baalbek, the dimensions of the great foundation blocks align. The average height of each course of masonry is identical, and, most tellingly, they share a distinct construction signature, the Herodian style, where layers of smaller, precisely cut blocks alternate with courses of giants. The resemblance is undeniable. The accepted timeline suggests the inner platform was laid in the final decades of the 1st century before our era, with a second of the exquisite Temple of Bacchus, and later still, the Temple of Venus, a delicate structure that has weathered the ages least of all. But perhaps the most compelling clue was found not in a library, but in the heart of the structure itself. On the upper surface of one of the 3 colossal stones known as the Trilithon, archaeologists discovered a blueprint, an architect's drawing of the Temple of Jupiter's fronton, etched directly into the rock. The drawing covers the entire top face of the megalith and is partially obscured by the blocks laid directly upon it. The implication is staggering. The builders carved their master plan in the open air, a constant reference as they worked. This means the blocks standing above the Trilithon were placed at the same time as the Temple of Jupiter itself. And on the upper drum of one of that temple's fallen columns, another piece of the puzzle, an inscription in Greek bearing a date. By our calendar, it corresponds to the 60th year of our era. If this mark was made during the temple's construction, it provides a firm, unassailable date for this phase of the project. Yet for every answer archaeology provides, the stones pose a dozen more profound questions. How did the ancient quarry masters know that the bedrock here descended to a sufficient depth, that it would yield standardized monolithic blocks over 5.5 meters high? What geological foresight allowed them to harvest these giants without flaw? And why does Baalbek defy one of the most sacred conventions of tannal points of the compass? A simple oversight in a project of such breathtaking precision, or a deliberate defiance of cosmic order? The deepest enigmas, however, lie in the craftsmanship. Even proponents of the conventional view struggle to explain how such immense blocks were not only lifted, but set with impossible accuracy. How were multi-hundred-ton stones nudged and pivoted, shifted back and forth to achieve perfect, seamless joints that a razor's edge could not penetrate? What are these strange circular marks, so uniform they appear to have been machined on a colossal lathe? They are a whisper of a lost technique, a technology that exists beyond the grasp of our historical understanding. The stones of Baalbek offer no easy answers. They are a testament not only to what humanity can achieve, but to the profound depths of what we have forgotten. Within the monumental silence of Baalbek, an architectural anomaly defies simple explanation. A corridor, hewn from the living rock, appears to have been deliberately skewed after its initial creation. The walls do not run true. The angles are intentional, a later modification to a design already perfected. The question is not how, but why. What purpose could this deliberate imperfection serve in a place defined by its impossible precision? This is but one scar on the ancient complex. A far more profound wound cuts through the very heart of the ruins. A mysterious, linear path of destruction. A gaping void in one massive wall is mirrored with chilling accuracy by identical damage on the opposite side. A wound that later hands have attempted to crudely patch and disguise. Nearby, another colossal block bears a similar trauma. Whether it was cracked by immense pressure or pierced by an unimaginable force, the result is the same. The breach was chiseled into a neat rectangle and filled with a mosaic of smaller, almost insignificant stones. One might easily attribute such damage to the violent tremors of an earthquake, a force that has humbled empires across the ages. Yet the precise, almost surgical nature of the damage whispers of other, more intriguing events, a story the stones themselves are struggling to tell. To understand this place, we must look to its past, to images captured centuries ago. Photographs of the Temple of Bacchus from a bygone era reveal details that are now overlooked, forgotten in the shadow of the larger megaliths. They show a structure in a different state of being, hinting at a history more complex than we imagine. It is within this context of hidden histories that modern theories take root. Some are convinced that deep within the core of these colossal Roman columns, a secret lies concealed, a metallic rod, an ancient armature, now shrouded in mortar to hide it from the world. The orthodox explanation, of course, is a testament to human will. The stone itself, a dense limestone, is not the hardest of geological materials. To carve such megaliths by hand, while an undertaking of breathtaking labor and inconvenience, is considered to be within the realm of human possibility. The accepted narrative paints a picture of Roman subjects toiling under the sun, hewing these leviathans from the earth. For their transport, a combination of brute force and simple machines is proposed: winches, levers, and the sheer power of a vast human workforce. The journey was a procession of giants. Blocks were dragged along a specially constructed earthen ramp, stretching 800 meters from the quarry to the temple platform. Critically, the quarry sits just 1 degree lower in elevation than the temple itself. A subtle but crucial detail that would, at the very least, preclude the need to haul these immense weights uphill. History does provide precedent for the movement of massive stones. The obelisk of Thutmose III, a monolith of 280 tons, was relocated from Karnak to Constantinople in the 4th century of our era. More recently, Mussolini's obelisk, weighing 300 tons, was dragged 11 kilometers to a harbor on a bed of wooden rollers. And then there is the Thunderstone. In the year 1769, this single rock, weighing an almost unbelievable 1,500 tons, was transported 8 kilometers over land and then by ship to St. Petersburg. Yet this was an event on a national scale, a triumph of engineering exhaustively documented in the press of the day. The process was fraught with setbacks and crises that threatened the entire project. That was for a single stone in the 18th century. Here in Baalbek, we are speaking of dozens of such stones, moved at least 1,700 years earlier. The French architect Jean-Pierre Adam calculated that a team of 120 men, utilizing 6 winches of a type available to the Romans, could indeed move an 800-ton block to the construction site. His calculations assume the use of wooden rollers and a well-paved Roman road. But a crucial question hangs in the air, a question of simple physics. Would the wooden rollers themselves have withstood such a crushing weight? Would they not have been pulverized into splinters beneath the unyielding mass of the trilithon stones? This leads to the ultimate enigma. Why here? Why were such titanic megalithic structures erected in Baalbek and in Jerusalem, but not in the heart of the empire, not in Rome itself? Perhaps the answer lies not in the ambition of men, but in the generosity of the earth. Here, vast deposits of superior, solid limestone lay just beneath the surface, a builder's dream, free of the cracks and inconsistencies that would doom such an undertaking elsewhere. The mountain of raw material was already present. The stones did not need to be hauled from distant lands or shipped across treacherous seas. The quarry was the backyard. And so, perhaps the very presence of this perfect stone was a siren's call, an irresistible challenge to the builders of the ancient world. They built on this scale simply because here they could. The ambition was not just to build a temple, but to master a mountain, and in doing so, leave a question in stone that would echo for all time. A distance of just 800 meters separates the quarry from the temple platform at Baalbek. In the grand tapestry of history, it is a negligible space. But across this short expanse, a feat was accomplished that continues to defy our understanding of the ancient world. Here, in the bedrock of modern Lebanon, gargantuan blocks of limestone were hewn from the earth, leviathans of stone, some weighing in excess of 1,000 tons. They were not merely cut, they were transported, lifted, and placed with a precision that modern engineering would struggle to replicate. This was not the architecture of Rome, whose builders mastered the practical arts of travertine and volcanic tuff, materials wholly unsuited for such monolithic ambition. Nor was it the common stonecraft of Jerusalem. This was something else entirely, a statement of power and capability on an almost geological scale. The official narrative tells a story of Roman ingenuity, of immense manpower and an unyielding will. It speaks of legions of laborers, perhaps slaves, toiling under a Levantine sun, their collective effort focused on a single monumental goal: to raise a complex of temples for a distant emperor. Theoretical calculations and our knowledge of Roman engineering suggest it was, perhaps, possible. With enough rope, enough rollers, enough time, and a truly staggering expenditure of human life and energy, the impossible might just be achieved. Yet no definitive experiment has ever been conducted with blocks of a comparable mass in conditions that mirror this ancient terrain. The assertion that it was done with simple machines and brute force remains an article of faith, not a proven fact. And so we are left to wonder. We who live in cities of steel and glass find it difficult to conceive of the sheer human resolve required for such a task. What could motivate a people to undertake a project of such inhuman effort? Was it fealty to a king, or devotion to a god? Or does the scale of the work itself point towards a different explanation, a whisper of an older story? This is where an uncomfortable question arises, one that challenges the very foundations of our accepted timeline. Some argue that the grandest stones, the truly megalithic foundations of Baalbek, predate the Romans by millennia, that they are the handiwork of a civilization lost to the mists of time, a culture whose existence has survived only in the fragile vessel of myth and legend. This alternative view is not born of fantasy, but of inquiry. It thrives in the spaces where conventional explanation seems to fall short, prompting a deeper, more critical examination of these ancient wonders. The enigma is not confined to this one valley. Across the Anatolian plateau, in what is now modern Turkey, other echoes of this forgotten age can be found. In the ancient Hittite capital of Hattusa, the ruins sprawl across a landscape so vast that to walk from one gate to another is an arduous journey. Its stones bear the scars of what appear to be sophisticated mechanical tools, markings that seem out of place in their supposed epoch. But it is at the lesser-known site of Alaka Hoyuk that the mystery deepens. Here, polygonal walls rise from the earth, constructed from massive, irregular blocks fitted together with no mortar, their seams so tight they are measured in millimeters. It is a style of masonry that is hauntingly familiar, a signature etched in stone across continents, mirroring the inexplicable constructions of the high Andes in Peru. Among the ruins lie colossal blocks, remnants of some earlier, grander structure, now scattered and broken as if by a terrible cataclysm. The impression is one of utter devastation, the ghost of a magnificent creation long since torn asunder. Westward, near the Sea of Marmara, the ancient city of Cyzicus holds the final, heartbreaking piece of this puzzle. Here stood a megalithic temple, now pulverized into oblivion. The ruins are so thoroughly shattered that they suggest a violence that defies natural explanation, a destructive force of unimaginable power. Yet, amid the chaos, a single extraordinary artifact survived. It is a fragment of a column's capital, the ornate crown of a pillar. But this was no ordinary column. Based on the scale of this one surviving piece, it belonged to the largest single column ever created on planet Earth, a silent, broken testament to an ambition that bordered on the divine. These are not mere curiosities of a bygone era. They are silent witnesses to a chapter of human endeavor we can no longer read. They challenge our assumptions about the past, forcing us to confront the possibility that our history is not a simple, linear progression. These stones stand as sentinels, guarding secrets of lost technologies and forgotten peoples, a humbling reminder that the foundations of our world may rest upon histories far grander and far more mysterious than we have ever allowed ourselves to imagine. Upon the crown of a colossal column, a capital rests, the final ornate statement of a structure now lost to time. It is here that the ceiling once met the sky, supported by a pillar of such impossible height that we can only speculate on its true dimensions. The capital itself is a giant, with a diameter of 1.9 meters and a height of 2.5 meters. Many scholars agree the temple it once belonged to was a titan, a sanctuary that would have dwarfed even the fabled Temple of Jupiter at Baalbek. We journey onward 27 kilometers to the north into the rugged heartland of ancient Phrygia. Here, carved from the living rock of a mountain, is a construction that defies easy categories of giants. Known locally as Kapalikaya, the rock with a door, it stands as one of the most profound enigmas on the soil of modern-day Turkey. It is, in fact, a perfect monolithic cube, hewn from the surrounding cliff face with such precision that one can walk entirely around it. It rises to a height of approximately 13 meters, a silent, geometric anomaly in a wild landscape. The sheer scale and method of its creation recall other impossible fatanding of stonework across the ancient world. 4.5 meters from its base, a square aperture interrupts the smooth facade, a perfect meter by a meter. Drone footage reveals what lies within this dark chamber and a clue to its subsequent violation. From above, we see that an opening in its roof was violently widened, a crude attempt by later hands to extract something of great size, something that could not fit through the original narrow entrance. It seems the tomb raiders, or perhaps treasure hunters, were not the first to try and breach its secrets. On the rear face of the monolith, another attempt was made to drill into its core. But after penetrating 2 meters of solid rock and finding nothing, the intruders abandoned their quest. Above the entrance, a Phrygian inscription bears a name: Midas. Researchers have long speculated that this was the final resting place of the legendary king himself, his body interred within this stone sanctum. Yet, this remains unproven. The word may carry an entirely different meaning, its true purpose lost to us. To call it a tomb is perhaps only a convenience, a label born of a long-standing tradition to name all ancient and incomprehensible structures as places of the dead. From another angle, the mountain itself tells a story. A vast section of the cliff appears to have been sliced away, as if the creators were not merely carving a monument, but attempting to drive a tunnel deep into the heart of the mountain over 2,500 years ago. The land holds other, even grander enigmas. In the town of Didyma, the ruins of a Greek sanctuary whisper of a time when gods and mortals communed. The first mentions of the Didymaion date to the 8th century before our era, a period when the new kingdom of Egypt was beginning its slow decline. This was not merely a temple, it was an oracle, a center of divine prophecy second only to Delphi. And it was, by any measure, the most colossal temple of the entire ancient world, dwarfing its Hellenic counterparts by a factor of 2 or even 2.5. Nowhere else in the Greek sphere was architecture attempted on this scale. Standing amidst its ruins, one is compelled to think of it as a second Baalbek. Here, the steps of the foundation are 1/2 meter high. The columns, now mostly fallen, once soared 20 meters into the sky from bases 3 meters wide, the equivalent of a modern 7-story building. The foundation itself is built of megalithic blocks, some stretching 8 meters in length. We find polygonal masonry of impossible complexity, where massive stones, both curved and tapered, fit together without mortar, a seamless union of weight and geometry. The magnificent coffered ceilings bear niches, as if designed to hold celestial lamps. One of the fallen columns lies shattered on the ground. Its mat ascends into the earth, leading to an underground chamber, the Aditon, where the oracle once spoke her cryptic truths. Today, this passage is choked with fallen stone. Other entrances to the temple's subterranean levels are sealed, closed to visitors for reasons that remain unspoken. The visible blocks of these hidden corridors plunge at least 5 meters into the ground, hinting at a world below as vast as the one that stood above. The stones remain, silent witnesses to a chapter of human endeavor we can no longer read. They offer no answers, only a more profound sense of the questions we must ask. We are left to wander through the shadows of their achievements, haunted by the scale of their ambition and the depths of the knowledge that has vanished from the earth. Beneath the layers of the earth, the most profound secrets are kept. At the ancient oracle of Didyma, there is no doubt that the true significance of this place was subterranean. Here, we find a litany of evidence for advanced stone processing. The marble blocks bear the hallmarks not of simple hand tools, but of industrial machinery, as though they were mass-produced in a factory from a single, perfected template, receiving their final finish only after being hoisted into place. The entire perimeter is a graveyard of this forgotten technology, a landscape strewn with the shattered remnants of the very stones that formed this colossal structure. Some fragments are more than merely curious. They are unsettling. The enigmatic visages of the Gorgon Medusa stare out from the ruins, her petrifying gaze frozen in stone. Winged griffins stand guard over secrets we can no longer comprehend, and etched into the ornamentation, we find a disquieting signature. A swastika motif, identical to one found hundreds of miles away at the legendary site of Baalbek in Lebanon. But in brilliant, blinding marble. The architectural DNA is so similar, the scale of ambition so perfectly matched, that one can only conclude the same master builders were at work. But who were they? And in what epoch did they possess the means to shape mountains? The official record remains stubbornly silent. The Hellenes were responsible for this foundational construction, raises a profound paradox. The technology on display seems to mock the tools we attribute to their acrid place and, awestruck, left their mark upon it. Either that, or our entire understanding of the ancient Greeks, their knowledge, their capabilities, is fundamentally flawed. This same pattern, this same impossible precision, echoes across the Mediterranean, leading us inevitably to the sands of Egypt. Of the more than 100 pyramids that dot the landscape, 7 stand apart. 7 structures so radically different in their methods and technology that they defy inclusion in the standard narrative of a primitive society. They are aberrations that suggest the presence of a forgotten predecessor, a civilization that reached an apex of development we are only now beginning to appreciate. These anomalous pyramids are built to a tolerance that pushes the limits of our own modern instruments. The contrast with the surrounding dynastic achievements is staggering. In Egypt, one finds an overwhelming catalogue of facts that overturns our comfortable view of history. 100-ton sarcophagi, carved from single blocks of granite, with a precision our finest contemporary technology would struggle to replicate. Complex, curved surfaces polished to a mirror sheen. Boreholes drilled with tubular saws that cut through the hardest stone with an ease that remains inexplicable. Nowhere is this more apparent than at the Red Pyramid of Dashur. Inside, the walls of its corridors and chambers achieve a flatness so perfect, so absolute, it seems to have been sliced by light itself. At the nearby Bent Pyramid of Sneferu, the quality of the masonry is breathtaking, with colossal blocks fitted together without mortar, leaving joints thinner than a razor's edge. At Meidum, the pyramid is constructed from enormous, standardized blocks, a clear sign of an industrial process. Here it is plain to the naked eye that the final leveling was accomplished after the blocks were laid, a final skim across a sloped surface the size of a basketball court, a feat of engineering that seems impossible to achieve by hand. Inside its descending passage, blocks of stone are set with perfectly flat faces, creating a tunnel of impossible geometry. The very placement of the entrance remains a baffling mystery, a choice for which generations of historians have failed to find any logical explanation. This is not the work of a people experimenting with construction. It is the work of a people who had perfected it. From the granite titans of the Valley Temple at Giza to the 100-ton megaliths that form the Osirion at Abydos, the evidence is overwhelming. These are not monuments of faith alone. They are declarations of power, of a technological mastery that has been written out of our history. We are left with a silent testament, a library of stone that speaks a language we have forgotten how to read. History may be written by the victors, but the very bedrock of our planet was inscribed by the builders, and their message has waited millennia for us to finally learn its grammar. In the shadow of the Sphinx, a temple stands as a monolithic puzzle. Hewn from colossal blocks of granite, its construction speaks of a mastery that borders on the incomprehensible. According to the whispers of ancient inscriptions, this is the threshold to the tomb of the god Osiris, a place where stone was shaped with bewildering precision. The evidence of this power is not confined to the finished monuments. It is written into the very bedrock of the land. In the Aswan quarry, the earth bears scars that suggest the passage of some colossal machine, slicing through solid granite walls with an ease that defies explanation. Here lies the famous unfinished obelisk, a giant abandoned in its stone cradle, a single, seamless piece carved from the living rock. It is a silent testament to an ambition that was, for once, larger than the skill of its creators. Further down the Nile, twin giants have watched the millennia drift by. The colossi of Memnon, two massive statues carved from quartzite, one of the hardest natural materials on Earth. To shape such stone requires a tool of even greater hardness, a technology whose existence in antiquity remains a profound mystery. To place their scale in perspective, consider a modern challenge: to install a granite block of a mere 100 tons for a monument in Moscow. The power of an entire tank division was required. The colossi of Memnon each weigh a staggering 7 times more, a mass that would challenge the limits of even our most powerful contemporary cranes. Any modern sculptor could only gaze upon such work with a deep and humbling envy. But the story of Egypt's giants does not end in Aswan. For decades, it was believed that the unfinished obelisk represented the absolute limit of ancient quarrying. This assumption has been shattered. 6 kilometers east of the town of El Minya, on the eastern bank of the Nile, a discovery was made that rewrites the known history of megalithic construction. Here, not one, but 4 previously unknown megaliths were found, each one comparable to, or even larger than, the Titan of Aswan. One of these blocks is a true leviathan. It measures 22 meters in length and 8 meters in width. It is longer, wider, and taller than the famed Stone of the South at Baalbek. Based on its immense dimensions, researchers have calculated its weight at an almost unbelievable 2,000 tons. More fascinating still, etched upon its upper surface is the faint outline of a statue, the ghost of another Egyptian colossus. Had it been completed, it would have been the largest and most majestic statue in the entire history of the ancient world, dwarfing even the silent guardians of Memnon. The question of how its creators intended to lift and transport such a gargantuan mass from the quarry is a riddle with no clear answer. Yet one thing is certain: they would not have begun such a colossal undertaking without a solution already in hand. Scattered across the stone are inscriptions identified as belonging to the Ptolemaic period, dating from the 4th to the 1st centuries before the Common Era. This presents a stark dilemma. Did the later Egyptians, inheritors of a fading tradition, truly possess the knowledge and ability to move 2,000-ton blocks? Or were they merely adding their own marks to the far more ancient work of a forgotten civilization? The land holds its secrets close. Near the celebrated pyramids of Giza, hidden from the common view, lies another enigmatic structure, a giant vertical shaft plunging deep into the earth. Known as the Tomb of Osiris, it is perhaps the most mystical and unsettling site on the plateau. Some believe it to be the unfinished foundation of a 4th pyramid, an abandoned project. But what lies beneath is not a foundation, but a descent into another world. It is a multi-layered complex, a journey downward through darkness, culminating in a chamber where a massive sarcophagus sits on a stone island surrounded by subterranean water. The desert does not easily give up its dead, nor the secrets of those who learn to move mountains. It only offers whispers, etched in stone, of a power and a purpose we can no longer comprehend. Each block, each quarry mark, is a question posed to eternity, waiting in the silence for an answer that may never come. In the desert sands of Zawiet El Arian, south of Giza, lies a wound in the earth, an ambition, monumental in scale, yet frozen in time. This is the site of an unfinished pyramid, an enigma known to few but glimpsed by millions in the 1956 cinematic epic Land of the Pharaohs. But its brief moment of fame was fleeting. Since 1964, the entire area has been swallowed by a restricted military zone, its secrets locked away from the world, its excavations forbidden, a decision that many believe was not made by chance. Only one man ever truly plumbed the depths of this subterranean world. His name was Alessandro Barsanti, a seasoned Italian archaeologist, a man whose reputation was cemented by one of the greatest finds in Egyptology, the tomb of the heretic king Akhenaten. In the year 1904, Barsanti turned his expert eye to this gaping scar in the limestone plateau. For 13 years he toiled, his work perpetually interrupted by the harsh realities of the era, dwindling funds, the sheer complexity of the task, and the looming shadow of the First World War. His efforts would cease only in 1917. Barsanti died before he could reach the final truth, a truth buried both literally and figuratively beneath the sands. What he managed to uncover in those 13 years, however, continues to defy explanation. He first cleared a colossal descending trench, a passage carved directly from the bedrock, stretching 100 meters in length and plunging 30 meters into the earth. At its terminus lay a subterranean chamber, its walls stark, save for two mysterious vertical red lines painted with an architect's precision. A contemporary French Egyptologist, Alexandre Moret, who visited the site after Barsanti's initial work, was left astounded by the quality of the construction. The walls of the corridor and chamber were not built, but sculpted from the living rock. He wrote that their profiles possessed such clarity, it was as though they had been sliced from the plateau with a taut wire, as if it were a block of soft butter. As Barsanti's team cleared the descending passage, they first encountered a chaotic seal of limestone blocks, carelessly piled as if in a great hurry. But beneath this rubble lay something far more deliberate, a meticulously paved floor, constructed from enormous blocks of limestone and granite. It was a pavement of staggering proportions, 4 distinct layers of stone, with a combined thickness of 4.5 meters. The lowest layer alone was a mosaic of gargantuan blocks. The largest weighed a colossal 43 tons. Another stretched 4 meters in length. A perplexing question arose, one that echoes to this day. Why would anyone construct such a dense, impenetrable fortress of stone at the bottom of a pit? What purpose did these dozens of massive, interlocking blocks serve? What secret did its creators intend to conceal with such an immense and permanent effort? After painstakingly dismantling this multi-layered seal, at the very bottom of the excavation, Barsanti made his most profound discovery. There lay a singular, unique block of granite, its surface polished and 1 meter deep. It was sealed with a heavy, tight-fitting granite lid, designed with 4 protruding lugs for lifting. The seal was absolute. The lid was first coated in a thick layer of clay, and then covered with a layer of lime, creating a hermetic bond that had remained unbroken for millennia. Barsanti himself wrote of the overwhelming feeling that this specific object was the ultimate prize. He felt that the builders had gone to almost unimaginable lengths to hide this single, polished vessel, burying it beneath a mountain of stone. Nearby, on a block adjacent to the western side of the vat, a royal cartouche was found, bearing a name that stirs debate among historians: Nebkara. A name absent from most king lists, a phantom ruler, believed by some to be a mythical ancestor of Egypt's very first kings. Devoid of the superstitious fears of Hollywood horror films, Barsanti prepared to open the enigmatic granite vessel, which resembled a gigantic coffer for some divine perfume. He would later write of the moment, his anticipation palpable. All the precautions taken allowed me to hope that the contents would be most valuable. He had penetrated the layers of deception, overcome years of hardship, and now stood at the threshold of discovery. The lid was lifted. "But I was deceived again," he wrote, "when the interior appeared." It was empty. The chamber contained no treasure, no mummy, no sacred text. The object of this immense architectural effort, the focus of this incredible feat of concealment, held nothing. The mystery of Zawiet el-Aryan had only deepened. The purpose was not to protect what was inside the vessel, but perhaps the vessel itself. The meaning was not in the contents, but in their conspicuous absence. Today, the site remains silent, shrouded in military secrecy, its colossal trench a question mark carved into the desert. It serves as a stark reminder that some secrets of the ancient world were not designed to be solved, but to endure, forcing us to question not what the pharaohs buried, but why. Within the vessel, there was nothing, a void. The explorer peered into the immense granite basin and found it utterly barren, save for a single, enigmatic clue. Adhering to the interior walls was a dark band, a residue stretching 10 centimeters high. It was the ghost of a liquid, a faint film left behind by some unknown substance that had, over the uncounted centuries, evaporated into memory. Some among the expedition whispered the obvious theory: an unused sarcophagus, a tomb prepared but never occupied. But the sheer obsessive effort taken to conceal it argued for a different story. This was not a place of absence, it was a place of protection. The meticulousness of its concealment proved that something of immense value once resided here. The blackish stain was the only testament to its nature, a silent witness to a long-vanished content. Had this chamber been empty from the beginning, it would never have been buried beneath such a staggering mass of stone. Below, the floor was not a floor at all. It was a seal, a breathtakingly complex puzzle of interlocking blocks, fitted together with a logic that seemed almost alien. Under the first layer lay another, and another below that, descending into a depth no one could yet fathom. For years, the archaeologist Alessandro Borsanti dedicated himself to this lithic enigma. He labored to extract the blocks, one by one, attempting to solve the riddle and reach the chambers he was certain lay in the abyss beneath. In total, his efforts would raise 426 tons of stone from the earth. Then the desert sky opened. After a torrential rain, the pit flooded, the water rising to a height of 3 meters. As midnight approached, a strange event occurred. The water level suddenly dropped by a full meter. Borsanti understood at once. The water had not evaporated, it had escaped. It had found a path into subterranean tunnels, cavities vast enough to swallow 385 cubic meters of water in a matter of hours. These were the hidden spaces he had desperately sought, the final destination of his life's work. It was a goal he would never reach. Today, many who visit this place mistake the low walls surrounding the pit for the base of a lost pyramid. But these are modern additions, built by Borsanti himself as a futile barrier against the ceaselessly shifting sands. So little is spoken of this shaft, yet it has already told us so much. The peerless masonry at its base was not laid for vanity, it was laid for a purpose. Perhaps this was no tomb, but a colossal reservoir, a sacred well where the dark lines on the granite served as measures of its precious contents. Borsanti himself observed that the block containing the Great Basin resembled nothing so much as a monumental cork, plugging a gateway to the world below. It is entirely possible that the deepest layers of stone belong to a different epoch than those above them, their silent inscriptions hinting at a time before the pharaohs, a time more than 6,000 years ago. This quest to understand the impossible engineering of the past is not confined to the sands of Egypt. Far away, in the state of Maharashtra in India, lies a testament to a different but equally staggering vision. Here, a system of more than 100 cave temples is carved into the land itself. 34 are open to the world. They were not built in any traditional sense, with stones or bricks stacked one upon another. They were revealed. These are structures of subtraction, created by meticulously carving away the living rock, a dense basaltic tuff, to unveil the temples hidden within. Of these, Cave 16, the Kailasa Temple, stands alone. It is the largest monolithic structure on Earth, a sacred mountain sculpted from a single gargantuan stone. The sophistication of its form, the delicacy of the work, is simply bewildering. What is most shocking is the sheer intellectual audacity it represents. The ancient architects must have possessed a complete three-dimensional blueprint in their minds before the first chisel ever struck the rock face. Every pillar, every chamber, every deity was accounted for in a plan of flawless precision. For in this method of creation, there is no margin for error. One mistake could not be undone. These two sites, a hidden shaft in the Egyptian desert and a mountain temple in India, are separated by thousands of miles and perhaps thousands of years. Yet they speak the same language. They are expressions of a profound and perhaps lost understanding of stone, of geometry, and of purpose. They are not merely buildings. They are questions posed to the future, challenging our conception of what the ancient world was truly capable of. They are the enduring proof that humanity's greatest achievements are not always those that are shouted from the rooftops, but those that are whispered from the depths of the earth. Before the first hammer fell, before a single chisel scarred the stone, the entire vision existed. A complete three-dimensional blueprint held only in the minds of its creators. Intricate bridges arc through open air, connecting structures that were never separate. A sophisticated network for drainage and rainwater harvesting lies hidden within the rock. Grand balconies jut out into space, and complex stairways descend into the earth, all part of a single, contiguous stone. To comprehend this feat, we must turn to our most advanced technology, three-dimensional printing. Yet, we must invert the logic entirely. Our modern marvels work additively, layering heated plastic, filament by filament, to build an object from nothing. This was subtractive creation on a colossal scale. A process akin to a vast, cosmic printer, not layering material, but meticulously carving away the unnecessary to reveal the mountain concealed within the mountain. The only clue to its age comes not from the temple itself, but from a copper plate unearthed in a neighboring region. It speaks of the temple's astonishing construction, so perfect that even the gods who witnessed it were said to be struck with wonder. The inscription is dated to the year 812. But this is not a birth certificate. It is merely a witness, confirming the structure was already standing, already legendary, by the early 9th century. To achieve this, ancient engineers excavated an estimated 400,000 tons of volcanic rock. Centuries later, in the 17th century, armies bent on its destruction would labor for years, yet fail to erase it from the landscape. The monolith endured. Today, we are still left in a state of profound incomprehension. We analyze the tool marks, we measure the angles, but we cannot inhabit the minds that conceived it. The logic of its architects remains a sealed code, a testament not only to what they built, but to a way of seeing and shaping the world that we may have irrevocably lost.